Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the quantum readings on her holographic display, her dark eyes reflecting the cascading numbers that shouldn't have been possible. The alien ship hanging in high Earth orbit was dying, not from any conventional damage, but from what appeared to be reality itself unraveling around it. Their hull integrity is unlike anything we've ever seen, she reported to the assembled UN Space Defense Council, her voice steady despite the implications of what they were witnessing. But whatever this quantum degradation is, it's eating through their advanced materials like acid through paper. The massive vessel had appeared 12 hours ago, its sleek crystalline structure beautiful despite the visible damage spreading across its surface. The aliens called themselves the Luminari, and they came not as conquerors or explorers, but as refugees. Admiral James Rodriguez leaned forward in his chair, his weathered face creased with concern. "And you're certain our ships can approach safely?" "Relatively certain," Sarah replied, pulling up another diagram. "Whatever this phenomenon is, it seems to have trouble affecting materials with higher entropy states. Basically, the more chaos in a material's quantum structure, the more resistant it is. And human technology, compared to theirs," she shrugged. "We're practically chaos incarnate." The irony wasn't lost on anyone in the room. The Luminaries' technology was centuries ahead of humanity's in most ways, all elegant efficiency and perfect atomic alignment. But that same perfection made them vulnerable to this new threat that was sweeping through their section of the galaxy. "Their ambassador is ready to speak with us," announced Dr. Patel, their xenolinguistics expert. "They've adapted their communications to our technology." The holographic display shifted, revealing a being that seemed made of living crystal and light. Its translucent form pulsed with internal radiance, but Sarah could see the signs of degradation even in the ambassador's body. Small imperfections that shouldn't exist in their crystalline structure. "People of Earth," the ambassador's voice came through with an ethereal quality. "We apologize for our abrupt arrival, but we have nowhere else to turn. The entity, as we call it, appeared in our space 6 standard cycles ago. It corrupts perfection. Our most advanced worlds fell first. Our greatest achievements became our greatest vulnerabilities." Sarah watched the data scrolling past her screen, her mind racing. The Luminary had built their civilization on the principle of achieving perfection. Perfect atomic alignment, perfect quantum states, perfect order. But in doing so, they'd made themselves vulnerable to something that targeted that very perfection. "The entity spreads by consuming ordered systems," the ambassador continued. "Our quarantine efforts failed because our containment technology itself became a transmission vector. We detected your world because it was different. Your technology, your very biology, exists in a state of controlled chaos that we once considered primitive. Now we believe it may be our only hope." Admiral Rodriguez exchanged glances with the other council members. "What exactly are you asking of us?" "We need your help to understand how to embrace imperfection." The ambassador's light dimmed slightly, as if admitting this caused physical pain. "Our sensors show your bodies contain trillions of variations, mutations, imperfections, yet you not only survive, you thrive. You've built a civilization in conditions we would consider impossible, using methods we would consider unthinkable." Sarah's fingers flew across her haptic interface, correlating data. "The quantum plague, this entity, it's like an immune response from reality itself, targeting systems that are too perfect, too ordered. Our messy, chaotic biology might be naturally immune." The ambassador's light pulsed in agreement. "Yes, but more than immunity, we believe your understanding of how to work with chaos, rather than against it, may be the key to fighting back. We offer an exchange, our advanced technology for your primitive wisdom." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity, long considered backwards by galactic standards, might hold the key to saving the galaxy precisely because of their perceived flaws. Admiral Rodriguez stood, his decision made. "Ambassador, humanity accepts. We've never been good at achieving perfection, but we've gotten pretty damn good at handling chaos. Let's see what we can teach each other." The ambassador's light brightened. "Thank you. But we must act quickly. The entity follows us, drawn to the order of our ships. You have perhaps 14 of your days before it arrives in your system. We must find a way to stop it, or your world too will face the price of perfection." Sarah looked back at her readings, watching the quantum degradation spreading across the alien ship's hull. 2 weeks to solve a problem that had brought a far more advanced civilization to its knees. She smiled despite herself. Impossible odds against an incomprehensible threat. That was humanity's specialty. The race to save the galaxy from perfection had begun, and humanity's greatest weakness might just prove to be their greatest strength. The biology of hope. The sound of shattering crystal echoed through the makeshift laboratory aboard the International Space Station. Sarah watched as another luminary researcher's arm cracked, tiny fissures spreading across their crystalline form. The alien scientist barely seemed to notice, too engrossed in examining the human blood sample under their quantum microscope. Fascinating. The alien, who had taken the name Crystal for easier human communication, whispered, "Your cellular structure, it's constantly in flux. Proteins folding and unfolding, electrons jumping quantum states, DNA strands shifting. How do you maintain coherence with so much chaos?" Sarah adjusted the gravity controls in Crystal's section of the lab, trying to make them more comfortable. "That's just it. We don't maintain coherence, not the way your people do. Our bodies are in a constant state of destruction and renewal. We call it homeostasis, but it's really controlled chaos." The last 2 days had been a crash course in xenobiology for both species. The luminaries' crystalline bodies maintained perfect atomic alignment, each molecule locked in precise position. It made them incredibly efficient and nearly immortal under normal circumstances, but devastatingly vulnerable to the entity's quantum corruption. "Another ship lost." Admiral Rodriguez's voice came through the comm system. "The luminary vessel in the Proxima Centauri system just went dark. The entity's getting closer." Sarah pulled up the latest sensor data on her tablet. The quantum plague was advancing faster than they'd initially calculated, breaking down ordered systems with increasing efficiency. But there was a pattern emerging in the destruction that gave her an idea. "Crystal," she called out, "I need you to look at something." She transferred the data to the alien's preferred interface. Notice how the entity's effect isn't uniform. It's stronger against patterns it's encountered before, almost like it's learning. Crystal finished, their crystalline form dimming with concern. Each perfect system it consumes makes it more efficient at breaking down similar patterns. Exactly. But look at the human tissue samples you've been studying. Even when exposed to the quantum corruption field, they don't break down the same way. They change, adapt, sometimes even get stronger. Crystal's internal light pulsed with sudden understanding, because there's no single pattern to attack. Your bodies are constantly changing at a quantum level, presenting different configurations moment by moment. Sarah nodded excitedly. We've always seen mutation and variation as part of our biology. Sometimes it hurts us, causes diseases or problems, but it also lets us adapt. What if we could teach your people to do the same? The idea was radical, perhaps even horrifying from the luminary perspective. Their entire civilization was built on the principle of achieving and maintaining perfection. Asking them to deliberately introduce imperfection, to embrace mutation and change, was like asking humans to stop breathing. "The others will resist," Crystal said softly, examining their own cracking arm. "Many believe that finding a way to perfect our defenses is the answer, not corrupting ourselves with chaos." "Then they'll die," Sarah stated bluntly. "The entity isn't just attacking your technology. It's targeting the very principle of perfect order. The only way to survive is to become something it can't predict or break down." Crystal was silent for a long moment, their internal light flickering through complex patterns. Finally, they spoke. "Show me what you need me to do." The next hours were a blur of activity. Sarah and Crystal worked tirelessly, combining human understanding of controlled chaos with luminary quantum engineering. They weren't trying to cure the plague. They were trying to teach an entire species how to embrace imperfection as a strength. "We're ready for the first test," Sarah announced, looking at the small crystal shard they had carefully cultivated. Unlike the perfect structure of normal luminary crystals, this one contained deliberate imperfections, quantum states that shifted randomly within controlled parameters. Crystal reached out with a cracking hand to touch the sample. "You understand that if this works, it won't just change our bodies. It will change everything about our civilization. We will no longer be the luminary, the perfect ones." Sarah met their gaze steadily. Sometimes the hardest thing isn't achieving perfection. It's learning to let it go. As they initiated the test sequence, Sarah couldn't help but appreciate the irony. Humanity had spent millennia striving for perfection, seeing their inherent chaos as a weakness to overcome. Now that same chaos might be the key to saving a civilization that had actually achieved the perfection humanity had always sought. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor after all. The price of change. The emergency alarms aboard the International Space Station blared as Sarah raced through the low-gravity corridor, her magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor. Behind her, she could hear the distinctive sound of crystalline structures shattering. "Status report," she shouted into her comm as she reached the quarantine lab. "The test subject is destabilizing." Crystal's voice came through, tighter than usual. "The quantum modifications are spreading faster than we predicted. 3 other luminary have already begun showing signs of sympathetic degradation." Through the reinforced window, Sarah watched in horror as the volunteer luminary researcher writhed, their once perfect crystalline form rippling with waves of chaos. They had hoped to introduce controlled imperfection gradually, but something had gone wrong. The changes were cascading out of control. "Their quantum field is affecting the others." Dr. Patel's voice crackled over the comm. "It's like a resonance effect. Their natural drive for perfection is fighting against the introduced chaos, creating a feedback loop that's spreading through their quantum entanglement network." Sarah's mind raced. They'd known this would be dangerous. Trying to fundamentally change the quantum structure of a living being was incredibly risky. But they were running out of time. The entity was less than a week away from reaching Earth's solar system. "Crystal," she called out, "remember what you said about your people's connected consciousness. Could we use that to our advantage?" The luminary scientist's light pulsed thoughtfully. "You mean, instead of fighting the resonance, amplify it? Use our quantum entanglement to spread the changes to all luminary at once? If we can't do this gradually, maybe we need to do it all at once," Sarah suggested, "like ripping off a Band-Aid." "Your Earth metaphors are still strange to me," Crystal replied, "but I understand the concept. However, the risk." They paused, their light dimming. "If we fail, we could destroy our entire species in an instant." Admiral Rodriguez's voice cut in. "We just lost contact with the luminary colony in the Alpha Centauri system. The entity's accelerating. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it now." Sarah looked at the suffering test subject, then at her friend Crystal, whose form was showing more cracks by the hour. The weight of the decision pressed down on her like the crushing depths of Earth's oceans, depths that would kill most species in the galaxy, but where life from Earth still found a way to thrive. "We modify the quantum resonance pattern," she declared, her fingers flying over the control interface. "Instead of fighting your species' drive for perfection, we work with it. Perfect imperfection. Controlled chaos in perfect balance." Crystal's light brightened with sudden understanding. Yes, yes, not random chaos, but perfectly ordered disorder. A system so complex in its imperfection that it appears perfect at certain scales, like your planet's coastlines or the branching patterns of your trees. They worked frantically, combining Crystal's intimate knowledge of luminary quantum structures with Sarah's understanding of Earth's natural patterns of organized chaos. Fractals, quantum foam, the delicate balance of ecosystems, all became part of their solution. The resonance chamber is ready, Sarah announced hours later. Crystal, are you sure about this? You'll be the conduit. The strain could kill you. The luminary scientist moved to the center of the chamber, their crystalline form now webbed with cracks, but somehow beautiful in its imperfection. In trying to help us survive, your people have taught us something far more valuable than survival. You've taught us how to live. Sarah initiated the sequence. The chamber hummed with power as Crystal began to glow, brighter and brighter, their form shifting in ways that seemed to bend reality itself. Through their quantum network, the changes began to spread to all luminary everywhere. The screaming started immediately, not physical screams, but quantum distortions that made reality itself shudder. Sarah watched the readings in horror as Crystal's form began to dissolve, their perfect crystalline structure breaking down completely. No, 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 she muttered, reaching for the shutdown controls. Wait! Crystal's voice came through, somehow stronger despite their disintegrating form. It's working. We're not breaking down. We're transforming. We're becoming something new. On screens across the station, reports began flooding in from luminary ships and colonies across known space. The crystalline beings were changing, their perfect forms becoming more fluid, more organic. Not chaotic, but not perfectly ordered either, existing in a beautiful balance between the two states. As the process completed, Crystal reformed, but they were different now. Their bodies still crystalline but flowing like liquid metal, shifting and changing while maintaining its essential nature. Around them, the other luminary were undergoing similar transformations. How do you feel? Sarah asked cautiously. Crystal examined their new form with wonder. We feel alive. Truly alive, perhaps for the first time. We can feel the quantum currents of reality itself, dancing through our new forms. We are perfect and imperfect, ordered and chaotic, all at once. But there was no time to celebrate their success. The entity was still coming, and now they would face the ultimate test. Would their new nature be enough to resist its corruption, or had they just transformed an entire species only to watch them die in a different form? The answer would come sooner than anyone wanted. The entity had sensed the massive quantum shift of the luminary transformation, and it was no longer merely approaching. It was accelerating. Dancing with chaos. Energy distortions detected at the edge of the solar system. The ISS's AI announced, its voice eerily calm. Quantum decay patterns match entity signatures. Estimated time to Earth orbit: 6 hours. Sarah stood at the observation window, watching the transformed luminary fleet take position around Earth. The ships, like their crews, had been modified using the same principles of controlled chaos. Their once perfect crystalline hulls now rippled with ever-changing patterns, beautiful and terrifying in their complexity. Remarkable, Crystal said, floating beside her. Their new form caught the sunlight in ways that made reality itself seem to bend. Your species' art always confused us. The deliberate introduction of imperfection for aesthetic purposes. Now, looking at our fleet, I finally understand. There is beauty in imperfection. Admiral Rodriguez's hologram appeared in the command center. All Earth defense forces are in position. We've evacuated all civilian ships beyond Mars orbit. The luminary fleet is ready. Dr. Chen, are you certain about this plan? Sarah looked down at her tablet, displaying the final simulations. As certain as we can be. Admiral, the entity feeds on perfect order. The more ordered a system, the more it's drawn to consume it. We're going to give it the most perfectly ordered thing it's ever seen. A trap, Crystal added, their form shifting with excitement, using its own nature against it. The plan was audacious, perhaps insane. They had converted a small asteroid into a quantum beacon, its core restructured into a state of perfect crystalline alignment. It would be irresistible to the entity. A feast of perfect order. The entities entering the Kuiper belt, the AI updated. Quantum wake is larger than predicted. Gravitational distortions detected. Through the advanced sensors Crystal had helped upgrade, They could see it now. The entity wasn't a single thing, but a wave of anti-order, a cascade of reality-breaking force that consumed perfection and left chaos in its wake. It moved like a storm of darkness between the stars, drawn inexorably to sources of high order. "Look at the pattern of its movement," Sarah pointed out. "It's not random. It's following laws we don't yet understand, but laws nonetheless. Because even chaos must follow some rules," Crystal agreed. "That was what we never understood before. True randomness, true chaos doesn't exist. Everything follows patterns. The key is in how complex those patterns are." The entity accelerated as it detected their trap, just as they'd hoped. The perfectly ordered asteroid drew it like a moth to flame. But unlike their previous encounters, this time they were ready. "All ships in position," Rodriguez reported. "Quantum field generators at full power." Sarah took a deep breath. Everything depended on timing this perfectly, ironic, given what they'd learned about the dangers of perfection. "Crystal, are your people ready?" The luminary's form pulsed with determination. "We are ready. For the first time in our history, we are truly ready for change." The entity struck the asteroid like a wave of darkness hitting the shore of light. But instead of consuming it, something unexpected happened. The perfect order they'd created began to resonate with the entity's anti-order field, creating a feedback loop. "Now," Sarah shouted. The transformed luminary ships activated their quantum field generators simultaneously, not in perfect synchronization, but in a complex pattern of carefully controlled chaos. The fields intersected with the entity's resonance, creating a web of quantum interference. "It's working," Crystal exclaimed. "The entity, it's being forced to take physical form." Through the observation window, Sarah watched in awe as the wave of darkness began to coalesce. The entity was being forced to manifest in normal spacetime, its pure entropy nature confined by the quantum web they created. But something was wrong. The entity wasn't just being contained. It was adapting, learning, trying to break free in ways they hadn't predicted. "The quantum web is destabilizing," the AI warned. "Entity mass is increasing exponentially." Sarah's mind raced. They had forced order onto chaos, but that was the wrong approach. They were making the same mistake the luminary had made for millennia. "Crystal," she called out, "tell your ships to stop trying to contain it. Instead, dance with it." "Dance." Crystal's form rippled with confusion before understanding dawned. "Ah, like your Earth weather patterns. Don't fight the storm. Ride it." Sarah finished. "We need to match its chaos with our own, create a harmony of disorder." The luminary ships began to move in new patterns, their quantum fields no longer trying to cage the entity, but moving with it, like leaves in a wind. The entity's form rippled and surged, but now, instead of fighting against their efforts, it found itself caught in a dance of quantum complexity. "Energy patterns are stabilizing," the AI reported. "Entity form is changing." Before their eyes, the darkness began to transform. Like the luminary before it, the entity was being reshaped by its interaction with controlled chaos. It wasn't being destroyed or contained. It was being taught a new way to exist. But as they watched this miraculous transformation, Sarah's tablet began blaring warnings. The quantum dance was having unexpected effects, rippling through spacetime itself. They might have saved the galaxy from the entity, but in doing so, they had started something even bigger. Reality itself was beginning to change. Evolution's symphony. The fabric of spacetime rippled like water disturbed by cosmic rain. Sarah watched through the ISS's quantum-enhanced windows as reality itself seemed to dance, the boundary between order and chaos becoming a symphony of possibility rather than a battlefield. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Crystal's voice was different now, harmonizing with the quantum fluctuations around them. Their form had evolved further, becoming something that existed simultaneously in multiple states, a living embodiment of the balance they had achieved. The entity, once a force of pure destruction, had transformed into something new. It now moved through space like an aurora of quantum potential, no longer consuming perfection, but catalyzing evolution. The wave of change it had started was spreading through the galaxy, not destroying but transforming. "Admiral," Sarah called out, studying the readings on her tablet. "The quantum ripples. They're affecting everything, not just the luminary technology." Rodriguez's hologram flickered with unusual patterns, the quantum changes affecting even their communications technology. "Explain simply, Dr. Chen, what exactly is happening to our reality?" Sarah took a deep breath, watching as stars seemed to dance in new patterns through the window. "We didn't just change the entity or the luminary. By finding a way to harmonize order and chaos, we've triggered a fundamental shift in how our universe works. It's like we've taught reality itself a new dance. The rigid laws of physics are becoming more flexible," Crystal added, their form shifting through possibilities. "Not breaking down, but evolving. Like your Earth's ecosystems, finding new ways to maintain balance through complexity rather than rigid order." The changes were spreading faster than anyone had predicted. On Earth, scientists reported strange phenomena as quantum effects began manifesting at macro scales. Plants were developing new growth patterns that defied traditional physics. Animals were showing signs of accelerated adaptation. Human technology was spontaneously evolving, becoming more organic and responsive. "Are we in danger?" Rodriguez asked, his hologram stabilizing as their systems adapted to the new quantum reality. Sarah shook her head, wonder filling her voice. "No, we're not in danger. We're in transition. The universe is learning from us, from humanity's ability to thrive in chaos and the luminary's mastery of order. It's creating something new, a reality that embraces both." Through their quantum sensors, they could see the wave of change spreading across the galaxy. Other civilizations were being affected, each according to their nature. Those that had pursued rigid order were learning to adapt, while those that lived in chaos were finding new forms of harmony. "Your species," Crystal said softly, "you never sought to master reality like we did. You never tried to impose perfect order on the universe. Instead, you learned to dance with it, to adapt and grow. That wisdom saved not just us, but everything." Sarah smiled, watching as a new kind of star began to form in the distance, one that pulsed with possibilities rather than rigid nuclear fusion. "We never had a choice. Earth taught us that lesson from the beginning. In a world of earthquakes and hurricanes, of predators and diseases, of constant change and challenge, we had to learn to dance or die." The ISS's AI spoke up, its voice now carrying harmonic undertones that hadn't existed before. "Quantum integration reaching critical mass. Universal constants are evolving, but they're maintaining coherence through complex feedback loops, like Earth's ecosystems. A gift," Crystal declared, their form resonating with joy. "Your species has given the universe itself the gift of adaptation. The ability to grow, to change, to become more than the sum of its parts." Sarah reached out to touch the window, feeling the quantum possibilities dancing beneath her fingers. Humanity had always looked to the stars, dreaming of what they might find there. But in the end, their greatest contribution to the cosmos wasn't technology or conquest or even knowledge. It was something far more fundamental, the understanding that true strength lies not in perfection or chaos, but in the endless dance between them. "What happens now?" Rodriguez asked, his hologram showing hints of the new quantum reality affecting even human biology. "Now," Sarah laughed, watching as the transformed entity began teaching other regions of space its new dance. "Now we do what humanity has always done. We adapt. We explore. We learn. But this time, we're not alone. The entire universe is evolving with us." Crystal moved closer to the window, their form creating patterns that echoed the quantum dance outside. "Your people have a saying, don't they? About stepping into the same river twice." "You can never step into the same river twice," Sarah quoted, "because it's not the same river and you're not the same person." "Yes, Crystal's form pulsed with understanding. The universe is the river now, and we are all learning to swim in its ever-changing currents. As they watched, a new kind of civilization began to emerge among the stars. Not one of rigid order like the old luminary, nor one of pure chaos, but something transcendent, a civilization that understood that life itself is a dance between order and chaos, each step creating new possibilities, each moment pregnant with potential. The Deathworlders had not just saved the galaxy, they had helped it take its next evolutionary step. And as humanity looked out at the transformed cosmos, they realized that their greatest adventure was just beginning. For in teaching the universe to dance, they had finally found their true place in it, not as conquerors or victims, but as partners in the greatest dance of all, the eternal symphony of evolution itself.